What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of a multi-part series. If you've missed parts 1 and 2, stop right now, go back and watch it so it all makes a little more sense. My name is Ryan, your DIY guy, and we're gonna jump straight into part 3 because it's the finale and you don't want to miss out on the reveal right at the end. Here's a closer look at all the fixtures and fittings you'll need to secure the shade cloth. We've got a turnbuckle with 2 hooks on either end, a few D-shackles that'll connect the chain to the shade cloth, and then we've got pad eyes which will be secured into the wall, and then of course a versatile connector in the spring hook. We'll be installing a 3.6 by 3.6 by 5 meter long right angle triangle shade cloth from Kalahari, and this is a great addition to any backyard. We start off by securing the timber post, which is 70mm by 70mm, into a concrete foundation and allow that to cure. We've added some crushed stone and we'll add some more concrete in the next step. Now we've secured this at an angle versus securing it into the wall for a few reasons. Firstly, there's a recess, as you can see. We also have a portion of plaster that sticks out so it wouldn't be level. And then finally, we've got the electric fencing, which would be in the way. But this is a great alternative when you cannot secure onto the wall, because it provides some leverage tension for the shade cloth, especially in high winds. We'll go ahead and treat the timber post with a timber preservative just to ensure it lasts for time to come. We've added some more concrete over the crushed stone that you saw in the previous step, and that's just to raise the foundation for this timber post to jut out above ground so that no roots or plants interfere with it. Now I'm just troweling the area to raise the cream of the concrete so that it's smooth so water can run off easily, and you'll notice I'm also scraping towards the timber post so that it creates a slight raised area and allows water to run off again, because I don't want any water to be stagnant or around the post, causing it to potentially rot out in future. So it is the next day here, and the concrete foundation has time to cure out thoroughly, and the timber post is nice and secure, so we can go ahead and fit some attachments to it. We're drilling out a pilot hole about 5 centimeters from the top, and this drill bit is the same thickness in diameter as the eye bolt that will go through it. The eye bolt is simply a rounded piece on one end and a threaded bolt on the other, and we're using a set of washers and nuts to secure everything together. The washers protect the wood from splitting and disintegrating, while the nuts obviously secure everything together. Now that's just been hand tightened, but we'll also use a ratchet and a spanner just to ensure that it doesn't turn in the hole later on due to contraction and expansion of the wood. Now I had quite a tough time getting into the back of this area because of the proximity to the wall, but a little finesse went a long way, and eventually we got it through. We just used a straight bar just to align it properly so that we can move on to the next step of adding all the fixtures. We continue adding all of the D-shackles on each of the 3 corners of the shade cloth, and the D-shackles are obviously named after the letter it looks like, and it simply has a screw on one end that can be unscrewed, allowing you to add the chain onto it and securely fasten it into place, providing a strong anchor point for each of the chains to be attached to. We can then offer up the shade cloth to the adjacent wall, where we'll be installing the pad eye. Now the pad eye has 4 screw holes that attaches directly into the brick and not the mortar for a much stronger fitment. And then we secure the chain and the pad eye using the turnbuckle. Now ensure that the turnbuckle is in the widest open position, and you'll see why in the next step. Here's a pro tip. Always ensure that you've got a longer length of chain than you actually need. Now you probably want to have about 1.5 maybe to 2 meters at most from your fixing point to the shade cloth, but it's always good to have much longer so that you can position the shade cloth to where you want it. Now speaking of positioning, where's the sun at? To get the final length of your chain, you simply can use an angle grinder to cut off the excess of the chain. This was a length of about 1 meter from the timber post to the first securing hook of the shade cloth, and I was happy with that length. Now make sure to have the correct protective eyewear as well as the tools just to pry off the excess chain. I needed 2 passes at this because we needed enough clearance in order to pop off the excess, but the angle grinder made light work of doing exactly that. On the adjacent side, we made a few final tweaks before pulling the chain taut and raising the level of the shade cloth to its approximate height. This also allowed us to determine the excess of the chain that needed to be trimmed off. And then we repeated the same on the third and final side to determine the length of the chain that needed to be trimmed. And also we had to widen one of the chain links just to provide enough clearance of the turnbuckle. Here's a view of the final position of the shade cloth as well as all the chains that's secured together. And now we can move on to the turnbuckle. You'll recall in the previous step it was left wide open. Now we'll simply bring each of the bolts right in the center, and this will add a lot of tension and make it much more secure. We're on the home stretch. If you're enjoying it so far, hit that like button and let's move on to the solar lights. You'll need a tape measure, a pencil, the securing plugs and screws, the solar light, the trusty cordless drill, as well as a spirit level, and of course an impact drill. We start out by measuring the exact location where the solar light will reside, and we took a measurement of 5 centimeters or 50 millimeters from the top of the wall to the top of the light, and then simply divvied up the wall, which you can see was 23 centimeters wide, and that's about 11.5 centimeters to the center of the wall. That allows us to locate the light 5 centimeters down in the center of the wall. And then we took a measurement of how far down each of the screw holes would be approximately, which was about 3 centimeters or so, and mark that in the center as well. Then we measure out the distance from each of the holes from one side to the other, which was about 5 centimeters. And that means it's 2.5 centimeters on each side where each of the screw holes will be located. Now here's a pro tip. You could skip all of these steps and simply use masking tape, stick it on the back, mark out the screw hole locations, pop it on the wall, and Bob's your uncle. But this is a tried and tested method to ensure that you'll always have perfectly level fixtures onto your wall. So you could go the short route, but you've got a lot of room for error there. Here we're just checking that each of the screw holes line up perfectly, and then we go to town. Well, not really. You start off by drilling slowly just to ensure that the bit catches, and then you can speed it up and go to town. And the same with the other side. Otherwise you can blow out your hole and it will weaken your overall screw holes and possibly allow your fixture to come loose. Pop in your plugs and screw in your screws, not all the way, just a few millimeters off of the wall in order for you still to attach your solar light. And that's it. That's the beauty of solar lights, because there is no cords. It is plug and play, and you off and away as soon as you've got it located. So happy days. Well, that's a wrap on this backyard transformation, creating an oasis right where there was absolutely nothing in the deserted island over there. But we are super excited at how it turned out, and I hope you are too. I hope you enjoyed the concrete seater, the outdoor fire pit, the shade cloth, and even the solar light installation. I hope it inspires you to get out there and do it yourself. That's what DIY is about. It's about learning and doing it together. So if you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps us grow this channel tremendously. Share this content with someone that you think it can help. And also comment down below if it did help you. And please share some of your photos so we can also enjoy it too. We'll see you next time on the next episode coming up on Nail and Screw.